So understanding the process of settling an estate through probate while dealing with the emotions of losing a parent can actually oftentimes feel very overwhelming. And if you've been named the estate executor or administrator, you have the added pressure of being in charge of all the details, as well as ensuring that all the beneficiaries receive their fair share once the estate is settled. The process of settling an estate through probate can be a long and often confusing for the estate executors or administrators going through it for the very first time. But when you have a solid checklist for settling an estate with a timeline that details what to expect and when to expect it, you may discover that it may not be quite as overwhelming as you originally thought. I'm Harold Powell, a local real estate agent serving Ventura and the surrounding communities. And if you like my videos and want to stay up to date on real estate for Ventura and the surrounding areas, then suggest hitting the like, subscribe, and bell icon to be notified of future content. Now, when using my checklist and organizer for settling an estate, the link below will actually help you feel a little more confident that you're on track with everything that you need to accomplish to settle the estate through probate. So let's start with the 7 steps for settling an estate through probate. Number 1, locate important information and notify necessary persons. Number 2, hire a probate attorney. Number 3, file petition for probate. And number 4, take inventory and appraise all assets. Number 5, set up an estate EIN and bank account. Number 6, distribute assets according to the deceased person's will. And number 7, close the estate. Now, before I break down each of the 7 steps for settling an estate through probate, there are a couple things you should begin to track. Number 1 is your expenses, and number 2 is all the time you spend working on settling the estate. And the reason is that you may be entitled to be compensated for your time as well as expenses. All right, so let's move on to step number 1. Locate important information and notify necessary persons. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I have an easy to follow checklist, so you won't need to write all this down of the important items that you'll need to locate and organize. So there is also an inventory organizer in the link below as well. So the first thing to do is look for the will. The will appoints an executor to carry out the wishes of the estate, and if there is no will, well, you or someone can still be appointed as the administrator to settle the estate through probate without one. Next, you'll need access to several certified copies of the death certificate, and as far as notifications, the beneficiaries need to be notified, creditors, banks, post office, utility companies, and any other business the deceased had accounts with. Also, you'll need to cancel any subscriptions, notify Social Security or pension plans, and if they're not notified, then you'll have to return payments that the estate wasn't entitled to settle out the probate. Also, try to find a copy of the most current tax return and a birth certificate. Now, if you didn't live with the deceased and there is an empty property, you probably should secure the property by changing the locks, especially if there are valuables inside. And lastly, you should consider to make one master list of contacts that includes all business associates, colleagues, anyone named in the will, neighbors, friends, relatives, and others that you think are important. So, step number 2, hire a probate attorney. Now, you can choose to do this yourself, but there are several important steps that include court filings that, if not done correctly, can extend the length of time as well as the amount of frustration and confusion. A good probate attorney can actually help expedite the probate process, eliminate potential confusions, and avoid pitfalls in settling the estate. The probate process can typically take anywhere from 10 months to maybe a year, as long as there are no other objections. So the question is, what is probate? Well, probate is the court-supervised process of collecting the decedent's assets and paying those that are owed money to, and then distributing what is left to their heirs. Now, side note is that you will only need to file for probate if there is more than $150,000 worth of combined assets or more. So, number 3, petition for probate. Now, if you hire an attorney, they will file the petition paperwork along with a will in the probate court. And once the petition has been filed, it takes about 30 to 60 days to receive a court document signed by the judge confirming the appointment of an administrator or legal representative. This gives the representative authority to sell real and personal property. Escrow will also need a copy of letters of administration or testimony to close the escrow if there is a real property sale. Next step is step number 4, which is to take inventory and appraise all assets. You'll need to create an inventory of all assets, and I've again included that inventory organizer in the link below. Now, bonus tip, if there is a lot of items, you may want to put what room in the house each is located under the heading of location. There may be some of the inventory of the assets that may need to be distributed to beneficiaries per the will, and other assets to be assessed and sold through an estate sale. Now, any high value assets should be appraised. If there is real property to be sold, then you would meet with a real estate agent to help determine the value of the property and begin the prep work of getting the property ready for sale. Now, we also have a local moving van that can be used by our clients to move out items out of the property to other family members or friends, or even to donate to charity. Now, number 5 is after you have your letters of administration, you'll need an Estate EIN, or what we call employee identification number. Now, this is also known as the tax ID number in order to settle an estate. And the EIN replaces the Social Security number that is no longer active and is used to file taxes on the estate's behalf. Now, you'll need the Estate EIN number to open the estate bank account, which is needed to pay debts, taxes, and other expenses. The estate account will also be used to collect money that may be owed to the estate, such as final wages, insurance benefits, and the sale of any other property. Now, even though the person who has borrowed has incurred a debt and is no longer living, most, if not all, the debts will still need to be paid off. Fortunately, it is the obligation of the estate to pay these off, the remaining debt from the funds collected, and it does not require the legal representative to contribute their own funds. Lastly, necessary tax returns will need to be filed and paid when settling the estate. So number 6 is distribute assets. After debts, taxes are paid, and if the probate is closed, then you can distribute the assets according to the decedent's wishes. Now, bonus tip is to withhold some of the estate's funds in the bank account for about 6 months to a year to have money available to pay any final taxes or bills. You would then distribute any remaining funds before closing the estate account. The last step, step 7, close the estate. Once all the above steps have been completed, you can file a petition for discharge of the executor or administrator responsibilities and ask the probate court to formally close the estate. Now, typically this process, again, takes 10 months to a year to complete, depending on how complex the estate is. Well, thanks for watching, and if you found this of value, please like or comment below. Thanks.